Well, hello, my dear listeners. I hope you're doing well, as always. And wow, I'm in the jungle here. You can hear in the background some crazy animal happenings. um, Today, I have a wonderful guest that was referred by another guest. And so she's this surprise, beautiful human who I had never encountered before. And I'm really delighted to have you on, Kim. Kim Miller is an empowering motivational speaker that touches your heart, mind, and soul. And I can attest to that. This spoken word poet loves writing and performing. Her poetry is her art expressed in words, opinionated, blunt, thought-provoking, and real. She has been the featured poet, speaker, and facilitator at events in several states, including New York, California, and Colorado. Kim is the author of several poetry books, and last year she released a journal called Hope on Purpose, 26 Weeks of Clarity. She is one of 25 authors who just released a bold book called The Ultimate Guide to Self-Healing, Volume 2. Kim wrote Chapter 15, which is Mindset Mastery, Recognizing Accomplishments for Radical Self-Care. Kim is an award-winning poet, and she co-teaches poetry at a women's prison. Kim started her t-shirt line in 2018 that features her haiku and sayings. Kim Miller is a native New Yorker, born in Brooklyn, currently living in Virginia. Welcome, Kim. I'm really excited to see where this conversation goes. After listening to some of your work this morning, I'm like, yes.
I appreciate you.
I was just telling Kim before we hit record that I might be her newest super fan, unless one of y'all could become her newest super fan, in which case you're more recent than me. So yeah, it's going to be good.
Yes, indeed.
So I was listening this morning and several lines. It was an older thing that I listened to this morning. I've listened to a few things, but the one that really touched me was something I think that was in a coffee shop a few years ago, maybe in 2016. And I think it's particularly relevant right now because as of today, this particular artist, not Kim, just dropped her latest project. And the quote is, "Don't tell me when Beyonce's next album drops if you can't tell me when your next project starts."
Yes.
And you had lots around like entertainment industry and music industry, and how people worship and glorify the music and entertainment industry so much, and treat it like scripture.
Yes.
Can you say a little bit more about that before we dive in? Because that seems to be I don't know if it's still huge on your heart these days. But.
Yes, it is. And I often quote, as you quoted, different singers and all that. And I say all that because it's great for you to like who you like. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you become so enamored with them that you become secondary, you have to ask yourself, why? And then I tell people when they're, building a business and all that, and they look at people, I said, wow, you're really quick to beat up on yourself, but you don't have that same sort of benchmark for the people who you quote unquote think are great. Did Beyonce have every successful album, every song she ever? No. Did LeBron win every championship? No. Yet you hit a bump in the road and you're ready to stop. Why don't you look at the people who you think are so great, find out about their failures, and then maybe you can use that to push yourself. If you're not doing it that way and you're just going, oh, they're so great, then you're in the wrong lane. Use that lane as a purpose. Like what they have? Sure. I listen to all their songs. No, not all, but I listen to a lot of their songs, but with a purpose. And I don't look at them as infallible. I look at them as, wow, what did they do to keep going when the times got low? But some of us are using it like, ooh, I'm like, no.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, I've seen it. I've heard it said, seen it said, heard it said that seen it on video, that the celebrities of our time are sort of the gods and goddesses of ancient times, and that's how we treat them, and that they've been sort of come in to replace that. And I think that that's really sort of telling and maybe relevant to what you're saying.
Yeah, and then I talk to people and they'll tell me, "Oh, Beyonce's her album drops," and I'll be like, "Oh, that's great. So I heard you were working on the book. Tell me about it."
Yeah.
Oh,
Because it distracts us from our own divinity, and it distracts us from our own sort of channel. We're so focused on their channel, we're so focused on what they're doing that we get weird, and you know, maybe intentionally so, I don't know, but
Right.
how can we, like, yeah, exactly, what about the divinity within me, and what
Exactly.
wants to come through me? Because by being distracted by Beyonce's, I am not letting what wants to come through this being come through. And that's a disservice and an injustice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's one thing to use it to,
Yeah.
for not even, I won't say background music, but if you want to call it that, background music or background motivation. But instead, we're using it to be eloquent on someone else and to be deaf toned to ourselves.
Mm-hmm. So given all of that, and where do you want your impact to be? What do you want your impact to be over the course of the next several years?
I want to get people to get people. I know that sounds kind of simple, but if I can get people to turn more inward, to look at themselves and to look at, hey, you can't fix something about you unless you recognize and admit that it's broken.
Mm-hmm.
It's nothing wrong with the distractions of TV, music, all those things are beautiful. I think music is a great motivator also. However, if we're using it to sidetrack ourselves, then we're never going to grow. So my job, or what I call it, my unjob, is to get people to look inward. Because once you start here, everything grows. Everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. I'm curious to like when you list sort of what you do, spoken word poet, motivational speaker, facilitator. I see in your background for those of you that are not watching the video. I'm curious what those words mean to you. What does motivational speaker mean to you?
Motivational speaker means to me, because I hear so many people use that title now. So
Yeah.
it's like, I actually advise people, if someone says they're a motivational speaker, tell them to tell you something.
Yeah.
If they can't tell you anything, how motivational are they? So, side note. But for me, motivational speaking means I'm trying to touch your heart. I'm trying to touch your soul. I'm trying to get you to touch your heart and soul. My job is not to get to manipulate or change you. My job is to get you to hear me, so that hopefully something I said will say, open up the spirit in you, that you'll be willing to hear something from a different point of view. And then take that information and go work on the inner you. Because that inner song we play, it'll be always louder than any outward music.
So basically what somebody who's going to be successful at a motivational speaking needs to be somewhat, and this is my play on it, so feel free to correct me if this isn't yours, but sort of need to be a bit disruptive. You've got to be able to, in order for people to do a second take, especially in today's world that's like, everybody's trying to get everybody's attention with their distractions and their marketing.
Yes.
How can you be disruptive enough to just find that crack, get in, and then open it and say, look at yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. And sometimes it's hard truths. It's not always, oh, everybody's beautiful. No, sometimes it's everybody's mean.
Right?
Everybody has some, implicit bias. Everybody has some meanness. Everybody has something they need to work on. Sometimes you have to start at the ugly to get to pretty, and there's nothing wrong with starting at ugly, because, hey, beauty starts somewhere.
Oh my God, that's so good. That's a quotable. Podcast production crew. There's a quotable. We kind of, sometimes you got to start with ugly to get to pretty. I mean, and possibly that's what's happening in the world right now, is we're really looking at ugly, man.
Yes.
We're looking at ugly. I mean, I'm looking at pretty right now. I've got to say, yes. I'm in the jungle. I'm looking around. I've got the birds and the monkeys singing in the background, but in general, when we look at the macro of the planet, yes, and humanity, we're looking at ugly. And to think that we got to look at ugly to start looking at beautiful, then let's go. Let's look at it.
Exactly. After a fire comes the beauty.
Nice. How has your work shifted in these last several months, these last 6 months?
Well, everything has moved online. All my in-person stuff was canceled. So that was a bit of a disappointment. But in the same token, it's like safety first, because it's like, okay, so I had to say myself, so if we were still open, would you go? No. So, okay, so what are you complaining about? The good thing is, I will say this. I was skeptical at first about doing online stuff, but I had found international platforms. I performed in Africa, and I say performed in Africa via my house. I performed in Hawaii. I performed in California. I've been to California before. That was the only place I haven't been to that I listed. But my point is, I've been able to go to different platforms and meet all these different artists I would have never met had we not closed down. So that has changed everything, but it's given me a broader audience.
Awesome. So you've shifted online. What about the creative work that you do? Has anything new and interesting come through in the last several months, maybe like energetically or whatever, just because of the sort of chaos on the planet?
I also do 3D canvas, so that has really gone into hyper overdrive of like, I have all this stuff here at the house. Luckily, I've already, packed because, God forbid, I don't have 5,000 things already to do. So I have plenty of those, and I've been going in overdrive going, okay, maybe this with this one because I have the time to do it. So I'm really appreciative of this time. I'm trying to use it to broaden my horizons and to go over even some of the ones that I thought were complete and say, I think this could go here and this can go here. And I use that example to say, just because all you listeners, you think something is complete, doesn't mean you can't go edit it. The word complete doesn't mean completion. It's just complete at that moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, nothing's ever complete.
Right.
And will it ever be? No.
No.
Keep on, keep it on.
Exactly.
What kind of people resonate with you? I mean, I do, but what other kind of people resonate with you?
Anybody willing to listen, and even the ones not, because I've had people, because I try to be, read people. I've stopped doing this because I've been wrong so many times. Like, I look at the audience and be like, oh, she likes, he's like, shut up. Oh, he's like, sit down. You're trying to read, and then after you go, I sit down and someone comes through. The person I said, hated it was like, that was so good. I'm like, okay, no more trying to read people.
Yeah, you were grimacing the whole time.
They really were just thinking. So now they're thinking. Everybody doesn't have to be, smiley. Some people are just like reflective when you're talking. So the people that resonate with me is even the closed-minded people, which is kind of strange because I'm one of those people who likes a challenge. So when you tell me I'm not listening, I'm like, oh, okay. Then what? Yeah, I was talking so crazy stuff up there. Yeah, no, but you were talking about such and such. I'm not listening, huh? So, it's a challenge. It's a challenge. You can quote yourself wrong and see if they correct you. So, yes, I love the people who are willing to hear me out, but the ones who aren't, the challenge, I accept it.
Awesome. Yeah. I think it would be hard, especially live in a room with you, but I'm sure in any context, I think it would be hard to be in a virtual or otherwise room with you and not be paying attention.
Oh,
so that's a gift. Yeah. So given that you're increasingly online now, and that you have to sort of organically grow your following the people that are interested in you and even sort of market yourself more, what are you finding works for you in that department?
I find it's always because, spoken word poets, which is, I'll make that little caveat. People often ask, what's the difference between a poet and a spoken word poet? Well, it really depends on who you ask, but here's my definition. So a poet tends to just read with no indifference. So they're just kind of just reading what they wrote. A spoken word poet is supposed to try to make you feel what they wrote. So that's the difference. So it shouldn't just be now they can still read their poem, but they're supposed to read it with some passion, something behind it, some oomph behind it, so you can get the feel.
The audio is part of the poetry.
Exactly.
It's an intrinsic part of it.
Exactly. So that's when you hit the difference between the two. So for me, it's been more speaking, more getting out there and being heard, because I think a lot of people market themselves in a way that's not necessarily beneficial for them. You're marketing yourself at all times. I tell people that. You are your best marketing tool, especially if you say you're a speaker, because people are going to be listening to your words. And if you're not speaking with clarity and difference, making yourself point clear, people are going to start, So every opportunity I have chance to speak, I'm trying to speak my piece honestly, because if you start that fake, I tell people, don't be fake. Because what's going to happen is someone's going to invite you someplace and ask you to speak. And they're going to ask fake you to come. And real you's going to show up and be like, well, who's this? We hired. So everywhere I go and I speak my piece, I speak my truth, because I think that way you'll know what you'll be getting, and you can decide up front, this is a yay for me, this is a nay for me, and if it's a nay, it's okay. And if it's a yay, hey, let's work together, because online stuff gives me the opportunity to reach out to people, to talk to people. So the online stuff is where I've been marketing my stuff, a lot more so there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what offerings do you have? Like, how are you making the creative endeavors that you've got into sort of more of a business, especially now that there's no like live show in person?
So I also used to do like huge vending events, because I have a lot of stuff, as my husband says, a lot of stuff. And I used to go to the malls. That's how much stuff, they let us sit in the middle and sell stuff. So what I'm doing is I'm transitioning a lot of that stuff online, because at the time people say, oh, your stuff is so beautiful, why don't you have it online? Now I do have an online store, but not the stuff I would personally make. So now I'm transitioning all that online, which is a huge endeavor. I didn't think it would be that big of a deal, but a lot of the stuff you have to measure, you have to put the measurements, because now people aren't there to pick it up and feel it and see, what is it made of? What's the dimension? So measuring everything and putting each individual one up is a huge task, but so that's what I'm doing, transitioning it online.
And what about the motivational speaking and the spoken word poetry? Do you have offerings or products that are associated with that as well?
Yes, I have books on my spoken. Actually, I have a CD, so people can actually hear me on my spoken word. But I have been performing online for that, but not like the paid performances I'm used to doing, featuring. But it's still good to keep going. I tell people, don't stop your art, even if it's not the way you're accustomed to doing it. But when I first started, I didn't like it, because poets are very interactive people, and we're used to the crowd. Even if they're quiet, they're there. And, to go from that to the screen was like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to like this. And then I've grown to love it. So that worked out well. So a lot of it's still online, because I'm still hired every once in a while for Zoom or something like that. And a lot of times there's no payment for it, but it's just the opportunity to talk with people and to mentor the people. I still enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, I can just imagine, because I think the world is really needing more motivation and leadership and mentorship and motivation. Did I already say that word? And inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that you've got a really, really clear, resounding voice in that department. So
thank you.
I would love to hear your words booming from the mountaintops right now.
Sure.
So I think that would be,
Awesome.
It'd be great. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to do some haikus. Let me explain what that is, because
Do it.
So a haiku is a really short poem, 3 lines, 5 syllables on the first line, 7 syllables on the second line, 5 syllables on the last line. Total of 17 syllables, not words, to make a point. Now, they originated in Japan, and they were only on nature and flowers. And we switched it to, not we, the world switched it, because they didn't want it to just be on nature and flowers, to any content, but it still has to be 575. There's technically another name. There's a long explanation, but that's the short version. So here we go. Haiku. Strong women are not unbreakable. We just know you ain't the hammer. Haiku. Stop asking fools for wisdom. You don't see lions asking sheep nothing. Haiku. You cannot divide yourself into fractions to make someone else whole.
Mm.
Haiku.
Yeah. Awesome.
It's okay to be scared. Do it anyway. Scared people succeed too.
Fuck yeah.
And haiku. They thought they broke you, but you're a glow stick. They just exposed your light.
Oh, I love that. You're a glow stick. It's true. You got to break the glow stick to expose the light. Beautiful. That's why I've had tough times in my life at times. It's because I needed to break the glow stick. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And now I'm shimmering and it's
Exactly.
not needed anymore.
That's right.
I'm curious, like, what kinds of like rituals, routines, and things like that do you do on a maybe daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis to help you sort of show up in your full glory?
I am one to definitely, I have my own time every day. I'm a night owl, family goes to bed, and I stay up to 2, 3 in the morning. And that is my time to write, to play, to create, to do nothing. I do a lot of writing during that time because it's quiet. It doesn't have to be quiet for me to write, though. I've jumped out of bed enough times to go, because, I used to go, I'll remember it in the morning.
I'm still there. I still do that.
It's beautiful. What was it?
Or I'm like driving in the car and I'm like, oh, I'll remember that later in the shower throughout the day. That'll be easy to remember. Then I'm like, fuck.
Exactly. Never remember. So now I have my phone right there, hit record. Because if not, I drive myself insane with it. Because, as writers, when you get that line in your head and you think it's beautiful or wonderful or engaging or thought-provoking and you don't remember it, it drives you insane. So I do all that to center myself every single day. So, they used to laugh at me. My kids are night owls too. My husband has to go to bed early because he goes up to work early. But that is my peace. That is my joy. That alone time for me is so needed. It's so needed.
Mm. What would you say is like your next level? And I know you're moving things online, and I'm wondering, like, how are you going to get to that next level? Like, what is it? How are you going to get there?
I think the next level would be having a store, which would be great. Not necessarily right now because, if all the stores are closing, but in a sense, that kind of opens up an avenue to have a store, an actual one place to take everything and have people be able to come to me as opposed to, shipping everything out all the time, which I don't mind. But it would be great to have a storefront, even though that's kind of old fashioned. But even a lot of the big tech giants have, who said they would never have brick and mortar stores have switched up and decided to have some stores. So for me, I think possibility of a store would be it. So that's what I'm thinking.
So something local where you're at in Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yes. There's a mall not too far from here. So yeah.
What about your motivational speaking and your poetry? Is there anything next level for that?
That I would definitely love to take international, actually go travel internationally, which was my plan for this year. Well, to do more, to sign up some international gigs and to go out of the country, but that was not to be. But that's okay. Everything in, perfect spiritual, godly timing. I'm willing to wait. Everything happens when it should. So I would definitely love to expand that to other nations and other people, because this is not an American problem that we're facing. This is a people problem. People need healing.
Yeah, I'm curious if you've got, is there anything that's like on your heart right now, like a message for the people that you've got coming through you right now?
Yes, one in particular is part of a poem I use as a Kimism, which is my sayings. I had to call them something. And it's basically, stop writing your accomplishments in chalk while you write your mistakes in soul ink. I'm going to say that again. Stop writing your accomplishments in chalk while you write your mistakes in soul ink. Don't be so light on what you're accomplishing, but notice all the things you do wrong with such clarity. Give yourself a break. You are not as wrong as you think you are. You're only as wrong as you're acknowledging you are. There's a difference.
Yeah, I mean, and if you want to take that into sort of a conversation about karma or something like that, it keeps us trapped, right? The fact that we're so fixated. And when you sit with, that's what brought that up for me, is saying it in soul. What did you say, in soul writing?
Soul ink.
Soul ink. In soul ink. You write something in soul ink, that's just like guaranteed to bring it back up around so that you can keep working on that shit.
Exactly. And you'll never get past it because look what I did wrong there. Look what I did wrong. But what did you do right? But look what I did wrong. That
Mm.
internal dialogue, that song we play in our head is so important. And people think, well, my mom said it, but now you wrote the lyrics. You added a
Mm.
chapter. You added a
Hmm.
verse to it. So change
Yeah.
the song.
And how do you think for those people that are still like, I get it, but I don't fully get it yet? How do you feel like that applies right now on the planet with what's going on? Like, is there something that people need to hear in that can help us break through um, the chaos and insanity and everything the deep sort of polarization that's happening right now on the planet?
I tell people, start off with truths about yourself because no one should know you better than you. So first start self-examining so you know what's true about yourself. So what, they said it. Just because someone said it doesn't mean it's true. Start with the truth about yourself. And if you did something wrong, accept that. I did such and such. Doesn't make you a monster. We've all done something wrong. I look at myself and I say, okay, in this situation, I was wrong. This is how I would change it. If it's possible for me to apologize, I apologize. If not, I will make the next situation better. That's how I've shown myself I've grown. You don't have to go back 20 years and find everybody you've wronged and go, okay, Susie, hi, from second, hi, I'm sorry, third grade, remember me? It's not about that. It's about you being a better person now and accepting that you were human. You did the best you could with what you did then. And even if you didn't do the best you could, you can't go back and change that. It's what you do now that counts. It's what you do now. And if you've been called names because a lot of people are dealing with a lot of hurt, they were wrong. The person who called you that name was hurting themselves. I know hurt people hurt people. I hate that phrase because well people hurt people too. So get past the hurt people and go about you getting as well as you can for you because you are not a walking mistake. You're a walking miracle.
Mm. Mm. Thank you. How can all of these walking miracles find you?
I'm on everything as I am Kim B. Miller on all social media. Make it simple. I am Kim, the letter B, because people put B-E, no, just B. I am Kim B. Miller. And my website is kimbmiller.com.
Beautiful. So you can hit up her website and get links to some stuff on YouTube, on SoundCloud, various other places. Check out Instagram, Facebook, and look out for more beautiful words coming from Kim B. Miller. And
Yeah,
if you're in Virginia, go start looking for her store soon.
exactly.
Awesome, Kim. Well, thank you so much. This was a beautiful conversation. I'm honored to have had you on the show.
Thank you. Pleasure's all mine.